Welcome to the Bigger Room podcast. I'm your host, Jill Bender.
And I'm Mel Cobian, and today we're going to talk all about what rich people do differently, specifically 3 things. Is there anything that comes to mind, Jill, that separates actions, specifically actions that rich people have that others don't?
Okay, so I was gonna right when you said, I was like, oh, let me guess what the 3 things are.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Try to guess it.
but I think I'm only gonna get one out of the 3 because we've already had a conversation about with most of them. All right, so the first one I'm gonna say is the one that I don't think you're gonna list is they make their damn bed. I just saw another video on it. It was like it was some huge percentage of wealthy people and people that meet their goals. They start their day by making their bed. The second one is they journal. They keep some kind of journal, some kind of writing. They journal every night. And then what was the third? I mean, the third thing is they're action takers. They don't just talk about things; they do things.
They do
Another thing
things.
rich people do is they don't gossip or talk about people. They talk about basically getting richer. They talk about how
Yeah.
money can work for them and stuff. So those are some of the things that come to my mind right away. Did I get any
I
of them?
No, but
None of
no, I think it'll make sense. I guess it's like there's different areas, but the last one you said is quite funny because I've gone to just get a cup of coffee or just go get a fruit bowl, and I'm just sitting there with my wife and we're just masterminding together about life. And then you could just hear the different people what they're talking about, and they're probably like on their lunch break talking about how much they hate their job and their coworkers, and so it's very interesting to see how different the circles are, but it's a direct reflection of the life that they're creating for themselves. So people who sit down and mastermind are richer, and then people who sit down and gossip and complain are not.
yeah.
So I'll bring up the first one and then just kind of get your interpretation of it. The first one is that they find something that they're passionate about that lights them up. So last week we were hanging out with a friend, and she was talking about how she went back to school, and we were talking about specifically how it's because she wanted to do that, not because she had to do that. So
Yeah.
what do you think about why specifically doing something that you're passionate about and lights you up is related to being wealthy?
Because you are more likely to show up every day. If it's something that's going to drain you and that you hate doing, it's going to make it way harder to want to actually show up and do whatever you need to do to get there.
Why do you think so many people don't follow that passion? We're all passionate about something, especially when we're kids, and that may start dying down because of society and stuff like that. But why do you think people don't follow their passion?
Well, I think because they get thrown out into the world and they need to make money somehow, so they take whatever they can get. And when you're younger, your options are, limited. And then they start making enough money that seems decent to them at the time, and then they get stuck there. And the other thing is that they may have had a passion for it. So let's take a doctor, for example. My gynecologist, who I love, I was there, I think probably when she started is when I started going to her. I was there for almost her entire career. So she's not that much older than I am. When I delivered my son, she had just turned 50. And to my surprise, I found out that she was talking about retiring the next couple of years. Like last year, I talked to her about it. I'm like, what? You're not even 60 yet. And I remember going to doctors that look like they should have been retired. They look ancient. And you're like, why are you still working? You clearly made good money throughout your whole career. Why do you have to work until you're old? And a lot of them always say, well, I like this. This is what I love doing. And so when she said she wanted to retire, I'm like, why? She's like, oh, I love doing this, but she loved delivering babies more than any of it. And so now what I found out is that she stopped doing those normal annual kind of things. and she only is like a on-call baby delivery doctor.
She chose the part of the job that she is passionate
Yep.
about.
Yep. So the other parts,
Wow.
I think she was passionate about all of it, and then you just sort of lose that over the years, where you're just doing the same thing every day, and you're like, all right, now this has kind of gotten boring. I don't want to, show up for this. So yeah, she obviously made enough money in her life that she could just eliminate the boring stuff.
Yeah. Just imagine a world where we had it set up to where you can do whatever you want. Like if your passion is, delivering babies, there was a way for you to get there. I think it's also a lack of clarity for the path. For example, if somebody wanted to be a musician, there's just so many loopholes that they have to jump. I mean, you do have social media now where more people than ever are getting like social media famous.
Mhm.
New artists are getting discovered, things like that. For example, art, right? Art is one of those things where way back used to be super valuable, but now there's just so many struggling artists because the value is just not seen, but it's probably somebody's passion, and it might also be very hard to monetize. That could be another
That,
thing.
and because it's on social media, it's also often very easy to duplicate. So
Yeah.
this is terrible, but I was in Florida and I saw this artist and I was like, oh my God, that would be the perfect picture in my son's bathroom that I just remodeled last year. And then when I looked at the price for not even a huge one, it was maybe like 11 inches wide. I don't, not like a big picture. It was like $300 for this painting. Like, oh my God. So I was talking to a girl that was getting ready to go to college, and I said, can you paint this? And she's like, yeah, probably pretty easily. I could totally duplicate her. I could get it close. And I never did it, but she was like even for $50, college money, whatever she needs it for, and I might still do it. But I feel bad because I am blatantly like ripping off this woman who, did this art.
Yeah.
I mean, she's selling it for a ridiculous price, and she has it posted at. If I mention this, people might know who she is, but it was at. It's at like they have a stand at the Margaritavilles. So she's making bank. She's got a good website. You can order the products. It's not. I don't think I'm totally ripping her off, but that's another problem with the social media.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can definitely see people who might be that going through that struggle. It's just they're passionate about it, but it's just not something that you can monetize, and so it's one of those things where how can you still get to a point where it still drives you to harness that energy to something that still lights you up, because there's something about it that completely lights you up, and that feeling alone leads me to the second point. Sometimes focusing on a solving a real problem in the world, and so there might just not be a demand for the passion at time, because like let's take art for example. Like you just said a great example that unless it's somebody who completely is into art, appreciates every detail or whatever, they're not going to spend the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So creating art, for example, isn't necessarily solving like a big, real problem in the world. And guys, like, if you're an artist, I'm so sorry. This is just the example that came up. I play
We're just
music,
bashing
yeah.
them.
So yeah, I totally understand like that world of struggling artists. But what is a real world problem that you can solve, right? That is the second thing that wealthy people do differently. They're solving problems. Why is solving a problem correlated to being wealthy, Jill?
Because you're targeting a market that needs a solution, that wants a solution to whatever their problem is. Like weight loss would be a perfect example. If you're targeting weight
Yeah.
loss, you will probably never ever have to work again. I mean, you just have to
Yeah.
do whatever you came up with. But yeah, I mean that industry will never ever, especially because of the crap they put in our food. It is much harder for people to stay healthy, even if they aren't, going to McDonald's every day and they're they're trying to do the right thing. So
Yeah. I just thought of like a strategy for the struggling artist because I feel like we got to give him some help. And so, as you were talking, I was like, well, what would I do if I was like an artist, a painter? I would try to network with like interior designers or real estate agents and just, have like a referral type of system where, hey, you're a new homeowner. If you're looking for some art for your home, this is a, local artist that, blah blah blah, like consider supporting your local artists. I would just try to network is kind of what comes to mind. So there's always a way, you guys. There's always a way,
yeah,
because now you're not targeting poor people, you're targeting people that just bought a home and they're about to decorate. So it's all about finding a problem to solve regardless of the situation. But like what Jill said, weight loss is such a big problem, especially here in America. The bigger the problem, the higher the chances of you to monetize. So that is the second thing that wealthy people do differently. And then the third one, which I think is super important, is that rich people often tie their work to a bigger purpose, which usually is helping others, or just there's a bigger goal to why you're showing up to work every single day. For example, like the weight loss, if it was just about money, sure, it's again one of the highest paying niches in business. However, if your bigger purpose is because maybe you want to write a book one day, or you want to create like the next Peloton, like there's a bigger goal. It starts with the small things, right? But that's the difference between somebody who makes 10K a month and somebody who wants to scale to like 100K a month. There's just that bigger purpose, and it's not necessary. Money's just a byproduct of the bigger the purpose, the bigger the goal. You're just gonna make more money, and so that is usually what wealthy people approach everything that they do. What do you think about that?
I think when you first brought up the topic, I was listing habits of wealthy people.
Oh,
But
tell us.
well, no, that's what you said. Well, what is, when I was doing my guesses, mine were more
Yeah.
like daily habits
Yeah.
of wealthy people.
Well, that
So
definitely still
that
plays
makes
a
more
role.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think about people who, how important do you think having a bigger purpose is behind what it is that you do? What do you think about that?
huge, 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 huge. Teach my students is keep your eye on that bigger goal. So you're going to go through all these steps. You're going to put in that massive amount of effort right now and doing some of the things that you might not even like doing. It's not something you enjoy. But once you get to this certain point, you can either hire somebody to take care of those things or kind of shift, but just keep your eye on that higher prize or goal or plan, and everything else just kind of comes up behind it. And then it almost helps you to not focus on the pieces that you don't like either, because you're
Exactly.
just looking ahead at that massive like thing that you want to do. So then everything else is just kind of there, like it's just a thing you're doing for right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if there's no passion but you're making tons of money, you're not living a fulfilling life, right? And so if we have the other end where you're making a ton of money but you're not passionate about it or have a bigger picture, then you might not feel fulfilled, which does happen to some people. So just to wrap it up, if we're like talking business strategy, what rich people do differently is first they find something that they're passionate about that lights them up. And so they're, regardless of whatever it is that you want to do, there's always going to be a way. And I think we talked about, for example, artists, it might just be different, but there's always a way, especially if it lights you up and you can't possibly see yourself doing anything else. We always tell you guys here in the bigger room, you are the creator of your life. So believe that regardless of what it is that you want to do, what you feel called to do, there's a way. Just hold on to that fire that lights you up. The second thing is focusing. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I do want to reiterate, it it doesn't always mean it's forever. So
Correct.
last year, you and I had a very different thing that fired us up, and this year we've
Yeah.
shifted some. But so feel okay if your being led a different direction, but we still always have kind of the same end goal that we're looking for in life.
Yeah.
So that's where our focus lies. It's just the different means and methods to get us there. Our passion
Yeah.
changes. So that's
Yeah.
okay too.
And I think that's very important that you brought that up actually, because it's such a beautiful thing to sit back and pull back and be like, oh wow, like I was super excited about that, and I was super excited about this, and then at some point, like, you didn't get as excited. You just, then there's gonna be something else that excites you. But I think that's the beauty of being alive. Is the alternative is you sit here and wonder like, oh, what if I actually did this? What if I actually did that? Well, when you actually do the thing and you're super fired up and you're getting the results that you want, then you're like, oh, what about this, what about that? And so you just, life really does become this game of you being that creator. So that that is truly why you should follow your passion, because that is actually how we get to that end goal of wanting to live a fulfilled life. So the second thing is focusing on solving a real world problem. So as always, if you have a solution for something, for like the example that we gave, like, like networking with real estate agents, that's just an example. There's always a problem that needs to be solved. As long as you approach your life like that, there's going to be a way to monetize. And lastly, tying your work to a bigger purpose, such as just helping others. It's so fulfilling. Like we come onto this podcast because we just hope that's the end goal, right? It's just, we hope that we're having an effect on people. And when you truly love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. And success is just like the next thing. It's just a byproduct. The income is just a byproduct, but you showing up and how you feel about it is everything. So you can be the person that goes out and masterminds with their friends, or you could be the person that's very unhappy and ends up gossiping, and that's who you become.
Complaining about everything.
Yeah. It's usually like, for example, I think people who are, there's this saying, and it's like, somebody's got to flip burgers at McDonald's. Somebody has to do it. Right. It's not gonna be us.
So
it's not gonna
be us.
Yeah, it's not gonna be us.
Our podcast, I doubt it's gonna be you, because you clearly want more out of life, or you just really love the sound of our voices. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today with us.